Hi everyone, this is your final video for the topic of Eat in Eat, Move and Empower. Now in this video we're going to talk largely about scale fluctuations and how food and nutrition can impact that, but also touch on a few other things that impact scale fluctuations. Now, we know that for a lot of people the scales are massively important, probably too important. We know that for people who have a goal of weight loss or weight gain or maintenance, the scales are a big indicator for progress. But we do want you to remember that that is not the only indicator of progress. How you look, how you feel, your mental health, your social health, they are all more important than what the scales say. So don't just focus solely on what a number on the scales is or isn't telling you. Now, it is important to say this next bit too. When we step on the scales, we know that there is probably a large emotional connection with the scales. So for a lot of people who want to lose weight, they have a huge emotional connection to the scales. So when they step on them, they want to see certain things happening. They normally want to see the numbers going down. This won't always be the case, and this is important to remember. Scale weight is different to progress. It's different to fat loss. You can lose fat but not lose weight on the scales. And there's a number of reasons for that. Some are to do with nutrition and the things you eat, and other are hormonal. And I'll touch on all of that in this video because I think it's a really important subject for you to know so that you can be more empowered to think a little bit more logically. And that's the key here. Using the scales is fine, but you have to know how to use them. And I don't just mean standing on them and reading the number. I mean physically knowing and understanding what it means and why it's saying what it's saying, because they're two different things. A lot of the times we'll get on the scales and we'll have that emotional reaction of either being excited because we've lost weight or gained weight, or disappointed because it doesn't look the way we want it to look. Now, we have to try and apply logic to that, and this is what we're going to try and teach you, why the scales say what they say sometimes. So in an ideal world, if you said, I'm going to start dieting, you'd want to lose 2 or 3 pounds every single week for the next 10 weeks consistently and get to where you want to be. But that's not reality. That doesn't happen for 95% of people. The reality is there will be days or weeks rather when you get on the scales and you see a big drop in your weight. Other times it'll be a small drop. Sometimes you'll stay the same, and sometimes you'll even go up. And this is one of the flaws with getting weighed. You are only measuring what you weigh. You aren't measuring whether you've lost fat or not, and they are two different things. So scale weight can be influenced by a number of factors. So it isn't just about fat loss. Water retention is one of the biggest things that influences scale weight. So there are days when you will just get on the scales and you will naturally be heavier. If you're female and you're on your menstrual cycle or any time around that period, your weight can fluctuate by around 7 to 10 pounds depending on how heavily you are affected by your menstrual cycle. For some women, it won't be a lot. For some women, it will be a lot. So bear that in mind as well and apply logic to this. For other reasons that the scales can fluctuate, if you've trained really hard in the gym and your muscles are sore, your legs are sore, and you've got DOMs, you will weigh heavier. It's not that you've gained muscle. It's not that you've stopped losing fat because of that, but it's because that soreness in your muscles causes water retention. But you still want that to happen. You still want to train hard and push yourself, but you also have to understand that that might skew what you're seeing on the scales. So if you train really hard on a Thursday and a Friday and you get weight on a Saturday and you haven't lost any weight, but your muscles are really sore, that will be something that's influenced that. If you haven't slept great, if you've had any sort of stress, that can cause water retention, that can influence your weight on the scales. And then we move on to the nutritional side of things as well. So food-wise, if your food is always the same, let's say you have 1,500 calories every single day, you would expect your weight to be the same. But when you eat will change what you weigh on the scales. So there is no good or bad times to eat. You can eat whenever you want, like I mentioned in the first video. But if you normally eat at 7 o'clock at night, and for whatever reason, on a Friday night you eat at 10 o'clock, even if you've had the same amount of calories, you'll weigh a little bit heavier in the morning because you'll still be holding under a little bit of food volume. So your eating pattern can influence your weight on the scales, and not because you shouldn't eat late at night. That's not what I'm saying, but because you'll still have some food on your tummy when you get weighed. That's the point I'm trying to make here. The sort of food that you eat can influence your weight on the scales. Again, we're not talking about fat loss or progress, we're talking about weight on the scales. So if you're normally someone who eats really healthily, doesn't have much processed foods, but for the day before you get weighed, you eat a really salty meal, you'll hold on to more water retention from that salt. So bear that in mind if you're getting weighed. When you eat a lot of carbohydrates, for instance, now carbs aren't bad. Like I said in the first video, carbs are actually great for weight loss, but depending on how much food you've ate, how much carbs you've ate, you'd normally hold on to 4 grams of water for every gram of stored energy that you have in your body. And carbohydrates are the easiest form of stored energy in your body. So depending on what you've ate, when you've ate, how much you've slept, your hormones, your menstrual cycle, your stress levels, all of those things can influence your weight on the scales. Now, I think this is a very important subject for Friday, because a lot of you will, like I said in the first video, a lot of you will naturally eat a little bit more over the weekend. So when you do come to get weighed, whether it's a Saturday, a Sunday or a Monday, you will naturally weigh heavier, mainly because of the food volume. So use logic. It doesn't mean that you haven't made any progress. It doesn't mean that you've gained weight or stayed the same, you haven't lost any fat. It just means that for whatever reason, you're probably holding under a little bit more water. If you use logic and you think, right, well, I've done the steps I was supposed to, I've exercised what I was supposed to, I've ate the way I should have, use that logic and you will take the pressure off getting weighed a little bit. It's really hard because we do have a strong emotional connection to the scales. But if you use logic, it will help you ease that and overcome that a little bit. And I think that just about wraps up the eat section. If you have any questions on anything to do with food, anything to do with nutrition, anything to do with energy, or any of the things we've covered in the 3 videos, pop them in the group and we'll be more than happy to answer them for you.